The Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, really likes airplanes. He flies all over the place in them. I mean, not to East Palestine, Ohio, until he's really compelled to do so under a lot of pressure because it was an environmental disaster there after a railroad derailment. And he doesn't really go to he hasn't been to Philadelphia for that I-95 collapse either. There's a whole lot of transportation, but he likes, traveling and giving speeches and things like that. And when it was challenged as to whether he was appropriately using his government jet for all that travel, well, he said, let's take a look at the headline from The Hill. I welcome the scrutiny of my use of a government jet. Well, that's great because I got a FOIA request from the Americans for Public Trust to find out exactly what went into all of his use of his jet and where he was going and what kind of government business it was. I'm so excited. Caitlin Sutherland joins us now, Executive Director of Americans for Public Trust. Pete Buttigieg welcomed this scrutiny, so I'm sure you've seen all the papers, you've seen all the records. What have we learned?
Yeah, he welcomed the review so much that they have been ignoring our Freedom of Information Act request for months. It's been about 6 months since we determined that he was excessively using these taxpayer funded jets. But a question remained: just how much were taxpayers really on the hook for this setting domestically and internationally? So we submitted
Yeah.
a series of Freedom of Information Act requests, and his FAA has been stonewalling us at every turn and have refused to comply with laws governing the release of public records.
So he hasn't welcomed this review of his use of the jet. His department is actually blocking your access to the information. Is there some sort of national security issue here?
You know what? They haven't even been responsive to us. We have given them plenty of time to respond to our very clear request for public records. We have waited months. They're supposed to turn them over within 30 days. I mean, it has been months. The time has passed. We need the accountability, and we need to know just how much this jet setting has cost us.
Hold on. I got to do a quick little rewind here for a second. Did you just say that he's using government jets for international travel? He's the Department of Transportation. That's our highways, it's our trains, it's our I guess our domestic air travel. Why does he need to go to a foreign country?
Yeah, he used a military aircraft to fly Netherlands. And not only that, he is using these private jets to places in the United States with readily available commercial options. This is the same Secretary of Transportation who flew to New York and back in one day on a private jet. I mean, he could have driven, he could have taken the bus, he loves trains, he could have taken the Amtrak, but yet he chose to fly there and back on a government jet.
Hold on, the Netherlands? What for transportation? Well, I mean, they are very big on bike lanes and riding bikes in city, and they got a lot of bikes in the Netherlands. So maybe that's what he wanted to check out their bike lanes. This makes no
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, he was there for an international sporting event. So I think the more that we learn about his jet setting, the more we see that he is really not focused on transportation at all.
Yeah, except for his own private jet transportation to go fun places. Can you give us an idea of what the costs would be? I mean, this is not even equivalent to a commercial airliner because of all of the extra security and military aspects of these planes, right?
Right. So his predecessor, Elaine Chao, we know that she took seven trips for about $90,000. Pete Buttigieg is right around $20,000. So we expect it to be potentially at least three times as much. Now, we also know that since Elaine Chao, gas prices has gone up, just the cost of
Yeah.
doing business. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be $250,000. And I want to emphasize again, these are places with readily available commercial options. There is no reason that you need to fly private to get from here to New York City. But that's
In
what
fact,
people do.
I would think if you're the Secretary of Transportation, it actually would behoove you to use the kind of transportation that you're overseeing, that you're in charge of. In other words, if he needs to go somewhere, he should fly on a commercial jet the way taxpayers have to fly. That way he can actually experience what we experience and maybe bring some knowledge to the table.
That's exactly right. And what's great about all this travel coming out of Pete Buttigieg is most of it happened during the heightened issues of summer travel and also that chaotic holiday travel where folks were stranded. They couldn't get flights for days. Well, guess what? You can skip all the hassles of sitting on the tarmac and losing your luggage when you fly a government jet around the United States. You get to avoid
Yeah.
all the problems that we have to experience when we fly commercial.
Also, by the way, during the pandemic, we all had to wear masks when we were on planes. If it's a long flight cross country, that can be absolutely torturous, stifling. Something tells me that on these private government jets, nobody had to wear masks. So again, he didn't even have to deal with the fruits of his own bad policy.
Yeah, I'd like to think that too, because he has not been clear about his use of government jets. In fact, he proactively tweets trying to prove that he's on these commercial flights just like the rest of us. He uses these as photo ops, him with his laptop on the regular standard Delta flight, but we all know that that's not the case. He's
Yeah.
flying private, again, to New York, to Arizona, to Wisconsin, a lot of places with some pretty competitive elections coming up as well.
Real fast, because I just want to clean this up and make sure I understand. In 4 years as Secretary of Transportation, Rosalind Chow, his predecessor, made 7 trips on these government jets. So far, in just 3 years, not even 3 years, 2.5 years, Pete Buttigieg has made 20 trips. Is that the correct figure?
Yeah, so the time that we were able to capture the records, it actually only represented about 18 months. So
Wow.
in 18 months, yep, he was able to get, about 20. Now remember, former HHS Secretary Tom Price had to resign over his use of private jets, and he
Yep.
totaled in about 24. So I'm not sure what the difference between nearly 20 and 24 is, but that is why he is under investigation for these use of the private jets and why we have requested the total cost of them.
Yeah, and yet I'm old enough literally to remember when Chief of Staff John Sununu in the first Bush administration also had to resign his position because he was using these jets to go back and forth to New Hampshire. What's the next step since they're blocking it? Is this in front of a judge right now? Because you have every right. We have every right to see this information.
Yeah, as of yesterday, the lawsuit is officially on file, and we have been assigned a docket number. And we look forward to continuing to update everyone on the progress of our litigation against his own
Yeah.
FAA.
Is there, real fast in our final minute here, is there a protocol in place where these trips have to be approved by someone? Or if you're a cabinet level secretary, you can say, hey, I need a plane, and they give you a plane?
Yeah, and we've actually requested that. There needs to be a cost justification. And we have actually requested those details of the cost analysis to figure out why he would think it's okay to fly private to New York when the bus and train is certainly a cheaper alternative. And that is part of our overall Freedom of Information Act that they are stonewalling. So, hey, maybe I can come back on when they finally respond to our records. It's been months. I would love to update everyone on what we have found.
Please do, and I love that Americans for Public Trust is actually looking at it, and you're so right about the New York trip in particular. I mean, the ironically, it's the one place in this country where passenger train service actually does work between DC and New York. It's the only place, but it does work. He could take the train. Take the train, Pete. Thank you for joining us. There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. You are watching the Salem News Channel.